and the item number 12, which could have been action following that. So that would have been necessary. So is everybody okay with that?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Second.
Let's go to public comments. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the board? I don't see anybody rushing to the podium, so we'll move forward. You had in your packet the minutes of the October 4th regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from October 14?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, those are approved. Jim, are you ready, sir, for the Citizens Advisory Committee monthly report? Welcome, Jim.
Good afternoon, members of the board. Jim Godfrey, chair of the CAC. I'd like to just go over a couple of things from the CAC meeting and make one note for the folks in Manitou that we still have one vacancy that you might want to share with the new mayor, whomever that might turn out to be officially.
I'll put that on the list.
But we would like to have adequate representation from that wonderful community.
So would I. Thank you.
The bulk of our meeting on last meeting was around the proposed budgets from the member entities. Things went very smoothly for the most part, and with the exception of Colorado Springs, the committee is making a positive recommendation on the budget submitted from those entities. But let me explain just a little bit about what went on with Colorado Springs. Colorado Springs budget has a particular line item in it for a Pikes Peak Greenway corridor improvements. As it turns out, part of that money, the 2015-16 portion of that, a little over $1 million, is being proposed for a pedestrian bridge from America the Beautiful Park across the railroad tracks. That project, we had probably an hour-long discussion on that project itself. And the discussion centered primarily around whether or not it fit in the Pikes Peak Greenway corridor funding and whether or not the voters envisioned that a pedestrian bridge across the railroad tracks from that park would be part of the Pikes Peak Greenway corridor improvement. And so a motion was made to extract that project from the budget, from the proposed budget, and discuss and vote on it separately. So the committee did that. That line item was pulled out of the budget. The remainder of the budget was approved as presented. And in a vote of 9-6, the committee voted ultimately after this discussion to approve that project as submitted by the city. Again, the bulk of the discussion was around whether that was considered the proper use of Greenway import, particularly given they have another pot of money called pedestrian improvements, and whether or not it should fall into that pot. But there was, like I said, about an hour's worth of discussion. In the end, the committee recommends approval of that project as presented by the city. The other project that has been postponed for a while was the Mark Shuffle South project. Mr. Bracken brought forward, if you remember correctly, that project went back for rescoping and new RFPs out. And the city, because it's a kind of a joint project, falls under both jurisdictions, they would come back with a joint where they both agreed on the project and the scope of the project. That was presented to us, but part of the county's proposal that the city concurs with is requesting a $1 million transfer out of the capital pool, the $5.79 million that's in the capital pool. They need $1 million of that money in order to complete the property acquisitions associated with this rescope project. And the rescope project will use both capital money and maintenance money from the city and the county. And so the CAC, after discussion of that and presentation by Mr. Bracken, the committee makes a positive recommendation for approval of that project, and I'm sure that you'll get into some details of that as we go along. But that's a two-part process: approval of $1 million out of the pool and the approval of the bid that they currently have, so they can award that contract and get that going. So other than that, I think that pretty much summarizes the CAC meeting, and I'm open to any questions.
Any questions? I want to give a little bit of clarification on the Greenway corridor improvement. That concept was related to the Legacy Loop that goes around the downtown part of Colorado Springs and basically the Santa Fe Trail. It also relates to the connection of the trail system that's going to be going through the Cimarron interchange right there, and it connects them up at the top of the America the Beautiful Park to go over into downtown Colorado Springs. This is just my language. The city, when that connection was proposed and designed and came to City Council, maybe 2 years before City for Champions ever was conceived. And it was for the connectivity purpose to get across the tracks. Unfortunately, the B word, bridge, was never involved in the interpretation. Now, when they talked to us at council, they used the B word, but it wasn't written into that. So whether it's through the pedestrian funding or whether it's a greenway, it does the same purpose, but the reason we did it in the greenway is that's where its original intent was. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. Okay, we need a motion to accept the report from the CAC.
So moved. Second?
Is there any other discussion? Anyone in the audience? All in favor say aye. Aye. And opposed? Okay. And it's time for Good News Beverly to come forward. And
Good News Beverly, yes.
she's going to be known for that every month.
Until.
Okay.
That's right. It's real easy.
Which we know it's coming, but it's a real buildup. So the September sales and use tax revenue was $7,865,000, or $653,000 over budget, a whopping 9%. So year to date, we're over 6% of our budget, or $3.7 million. So then on the second page, that's a chart that compares to last year by month. And we are over almost 7% over last year's actual through September. So doing quite well there. The rest of the pages compare the expense and revenue items compared to budget, and it proves that we are not over budget in any expenditure category. So are there any questions?
Any questions for Beverly? Okay, is there any? Yes, Dennis?
Can you do this again next year?
Certainly try, but
She's a miracle worker.
we've had some pretty good years here now again, and
It feels a lot better, doesn't it?
it does.
Yeah. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to this item? Okay, this is an informational item, so thanks, Beverly. And Beverly, let's go to the 2016 budget presentation, if we could.
Okay, this is our budget workshop for the board. On November 4th, the CAC had their budget workshop, and they approved a recommendation to approve the budget as presented. And after the board's review and discussion today, if you would let me know what changes you would like to the draft budget, and I'll make them for December, if there are any, for our public hearing on December 9th. So I'll go over a quick overview, and then it's up to the board if they'd like to see the individual presentations. I know a lot of you have seen them before at your member governments, or if you would just like to ask questions of each of the department heads for the member governments. I don't know which you would prefer.
What would you prefer? Why don't we just go ahead and have her make the presentation, and we can ask questions after that, and we can bring up the department heads if we have questions for them. Does that work?
Agreed.
That's good.
Otherwise, you're going to hear two presentations. Some of you might like that, huh?
Okay, on page 4, I outline the assumptions in this draft budget, and we start out with the 2015 sales and use tax figure of $82 million, and we added $4 million, which was approved by the board, I think it was back in September, for $86 million. We have interest earned of $180,000, and then less the sales and use tax collection costs, and these are by the Department of Revenue at the state of $605,000. Oh, no, $245,000 is the estimate there. I have an estimated administrative costs of $605,000, and that includes both the PPACG contract, legal, audit, insurance, and so on. And that's an estimate of $605,000, and then the reserve adjustment of $398,500, and that's the 10% on the additional revenue or net revenue. So then 10% to transit, 35 to maintenance, and 55 to capital. That's number 10, 11, and 12. And then maintenance allocated 13 through 18 based on the decennial census. And then the capital allocation of $46,712,000 allocated based on a percentage that's very close to their decennial census. And this is the percentage that the member governments used when they were coming up with their A and B list for the new capital projects that went to the voters. So the transit allocation of 10% is almost $8.5 million. And then there's an estimated fare box revenue of $3.6 million. So that's it for page 4. Page 5, 6, and 7 compare the 2015 amended budget to the 2016 budget. Then page 8, 9, and 10. This is really the budget that you'll be asked to approve. And the first column has an estimated carryover on each of the line items, and then we add that to the draft budget for a total for the appropriation that we'll be asking for in December. Are there any questions for me?
Any questions for Bev?
Okay.
I think we have one here.
Okay.
Just a quick one. I'm sorry, I'm not tracking fast enough.
Pretty
On
fast.
page 4, the 25 and 26, the transit allocation, a total of $12.1 million.
Yes.
What was that last year?
Last year, it
Trying to find that item.
let's see. That was 11,604
Okay.
last year. So pretty close, difference of 518.
Okay.
And they roll over quite a bit of that from year to year, but they are spending into it now.
Great. Thanks.
Any other questions, Bev? Is there anybody in the audience want to speak to this item? Okay. Bev, I think this is just a discussion item, is that correct?
Yes, and
So,
if there's any
thank you.
recommendations from you for,
Any
that you wanna see.
recommendations for Bev, or are we ready for this to come to us next month for our vote? Okay,
Okay, thank you.
let's just bring it forward, okay? Next is the contracts. Let's go with the City of Colorado Springs first.
Mayor Ben,
Yes,
are we finishing the budget discussions?
I thought we were. Did you want to come and speak?
Absolutely.
Yes, please come forward. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I thought I asked for,
He did.
okay.
Just a little bit confused as to whether there was going to be a presentation by the member governments or not. Brian West, I sit on the Citizens Advisory Committee, and I'm here to kind of present the views of the 40% of us who had an issue with the Pikes Peak Greenway Corridor Bridge project that Jim very eloquently and accurately described for you. I wanted to bring this forward because I don't believe, and those of us who voted to oppose it, funding it or providing funding at this time, didn't believe that it was properly vetted, that enough information was provided for us to make a good decision on the funding, and wanted to provide you why we felt that way so that you could make an informed decision on your own. I'm not here to debate the value of the project. I'm here to debate the appropriateness of using PPRTA funds that are designated for the Pikes Peak Greenway corridor improvements on a project that crosses railroad right-of-way and is clearly outside the Pikes Peak Greenway corridor. For those of you who can see the screen here, brought up a shot of what we're talking about. This is America the Beautiful Park here. This is the Pikes Peak Greenway here, which is attached to America the Beautiful Park by the bridge here, and the trail here. So part of the trail runs on the west side, and then part of the trail runs on the east side of the Monument Creek drainage there. The Greenway corridor, as a citizen, somebody who's been on the CAC for 10 years now, to stretch the corridor to what is clearly railroad right-of-way and downtown seems a little bit of a stretch for this. The reason it's a concern is the citizens were promised that this was going to be for the Pikes Peak Greenway corridor improvements. And while it may be very valuable and useful to have a bridge crossing from the park to the downtown area here and to the future proposed site of the museum, the City of Champions project, I think it strains credibility and reasonability to say that this is part of the Pikes Peak Greenway corridor. And that's really what this comes down to. The city provided, even though this has been in planning for more than 2 years, and the idea has been bandied around for many years, the city didn't really provide us any information as to where the other funding was going to be coming from, how much this project, I've heard figures 6, 7, up to 13 million. There's really no definition of this. And as a taxpayer and a citizen, I'm kind of hesitant to give $1.1 million to a project that has no scope. And again, I'm not debating whether or not it's a good project or whether or not it'll connect people. It may do both. What I'm debating and questioning is whether it's appropriate use of Pikes Peak Greenway corridor improvement funds to fund this project. When questioned further, the city said that they see it as a safety issue because some folks are not comfortable utilizing the Colorado Avenue Bridge. The Colorado Avenue Bridge has 8 feet of sidewalk dedicated and another 6 feet of dedicated bikeway on that bridge, and that's on either side. It has a fully signalized intersection with ADA compatible ramps. So again, to me, this argument kind of strains credibility. I understand the budgets are tight. I understand the reason the city hasn't met its, transit maintenance of effort for 7 or 8 years is because budgets are tight. But those of us who are concerned about the PPRTA funds being used for what they're designed for and what the voters voted for, feel that this particular corridor is not greenway. This is railroad. And that's kind of the summary of what we feel and why we opposed at this time, until more information was brought forward, approval of the $1.1 million out of a very tight budget for the Pikes Peak Greenway, where there's actually a committee who has identified numerous improvements that are really in that corridor that need to be done.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else want to speak to this item? Okay, yes, please.
Thank you, Kathleen Krager, Transportation Manager for the city. I just wanted to give you a quick update on this and not to leave you with the impression that this was sort of a pie-in-the-sky idea. It took a lot of tracking down, but we finally found the 1993 master plan for the Greenway Pikes Peak Trailway system. And this is a copy of the section in question. In this, you see a line with an arrow here that says to downtown. It happens to be on the alignment of Vermejo Street. And it says it proposes pedestrian crossing of the railroad at Vermejo Street and just north of the depot. The plan also recommends a confluence park in this reach and envisions a park ring. That confluence park is now America the Beautiful Park, and the park ring is the legacy loop that we've recently received funding to work on. This is an appropriate use of Greenway funds. It was not only an appropriate use all along, but it was presented at both City Council and at public open house meetings that this would be used for a pedestrian crossing of the railroad. It is an expensive project. The railroad requires, it ends up being about a 300-foot span bridge and must basically be dropped into place built because we can't close the railroad to do it. So it's an expensive process. The city wants it to be a nice-looking bridge. It's going to one of our true jewels, being America the Beautiful Park, and provides a truly needed connection from downtown to America the Beautiful Park. So the city and city staff continue to stand firmly behind this project. This $1 million is just a piece of funding that we will be putting together for what we hope will be a very nice project in the future.
Thank you. Yes.
Of course.
Thanks.
But Craig has to have it back because it came out of his memorabilia box. So.
Well, we can take pictures of it or copy it. So, are there approved minutes from those meetings that state such that we could have also?
The minutes are generally fairly light coming out of City Council. They don't detail everything.
Audio?
But what was that?
Audio?
But I did go and look at the video. Staff has the video from the July 24th, 2012 City Council meeting in which I addressed the bridge at Vermejo. And it's very specific. There's a specific question about it. It's definitely a discussion of the bridge.
Okay. But was it ever memorialized to be one of the projects for PPRTA?
The discussion was based on, we were taking in 3 projects that were the last of our 3 projects to put on the project list for the ballot, and that's why we were having the discussion. So it was directly related to PPRTA funding and what would appear on the ballot.
Okay, well, we have lots of discussions, too, on the Board of County Commissioners. And I'm looking for that validation to know that that was actually it. So if you can provide us that information, that's great.
I have provided that to staff. You have the July 24th video of it. I think I'm looking better than I was in 2012, but I'll let you decide.
Well, I think you look great.
Thank you.
Right. And as a councilman in 2012, I was at the meeting, and I
Yes.
remember it clearly. So it was always intended to be part of the PPRTA. We just, when we wrote it up to put it in as a connector, we didn't use the B word, I've been saying, and we've learned a valuable lesson.
It is. It is. As someone who puts things on the ballot, it's a fine line between being too loose and too tight.
Yeah.
But it is mentioned on the ballot that it is for connections from the Greenway. It's shown on the master plan as one of the important connections to the Greenway from 1993. I think it was always on city staff mind. And if any citizen wanted to look it up as why we're doing that, it is part of the original history of the Greenway.
I know, and it's one of those things where I understand it, but conceptually, we need to make that argument before the voters, because there is a big difference in words. May, might, shall, must is a huge spectrum, so.
Okay, Tyler?
This would not be the first time that we've had ballot projects not necessarily look how the voters might have envisioned. We have many projects that were not able to cover the reach that was listed in the ballot, for example, and what do we do about that type of thing? It's always going to be an issue for us.
And I think if we could have, those type of things brought forward so that we can say that there's been a precedent set, this was what was on the ballot, this is what was done. Just any substantiation that we can have that will.
Okay, Commissioner Littleton, did you need an example to feel better about this one? The example I will give you is North Mark Shuffle.
Okay.
The ballot language for North Mark Shuffle, $19 million for that project, was to improve and widen North Mark Shuffle from State Highway 94 to Black Forest.
Okay.
And the project did it from north of US 24 to North Carefree. So a fairly small section of that section of roadway. And PPRTA 1, we've declared that project done, and PPRTA 1 really will not be touching anything else on that. That we did what we could with the money we had, but it certainly was not probably fulfilling everything that the voters would have wanted us to.
Okay. Well, that's a good example. Thanks, and I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Okay, Tyler?
Has the plan been updated since '93?
No.
And
No, we just hid it in Craig's office and never looked at it again. Okay.
where all the good plans are,
Yeah.
right, Craig?
When Craig does a plan in 1993, we declare it good and we don't touch it.
And I'm also looking at this plan and looking at the reach boundaries, which go from, in this particular section, the downtown reach, it's Bijou to Cimarron, Sierra Madre on the east, all the way over to Interstate 25. So the idea that if this is the definition of the boundaries, which lacking anything else or any updating, my view is this is the definition of the Pikes Peak Greenway. This is the plan for it, and this is within those boundaries, because that covers that. So it clearly would be within that, and it clearly is articulated in there.
And if you remember, San, could we bring this back to the picture of the park?
Just when you're finished.
The videos that are up there? Can we
Oh.
do that?
You want me to do that?
Come on, Kathleen, you're
No,
multi-talented.
There
that
we
one.
go. As you can
Thank you.
see in the White Trail, which is part of the Greenway system on the east side.
Yes, right
You
here.
can, yeah, and you can see it comes over to the east side of the river.
Right
You can
there.
see the White Trail there. You can see that circular area is all connectivity to the playground, to the field, to the statue, and to the entrance up there where the arrow is right now. And that arrow is where right there is where the connector will be to go across the railroad tracks.
It will align with that opening into
Right.
America the Beautiful Park and go straight over to Verma.
Now, as you know, we've done many bridges, on the trail system. All of them are connectors to other parts of our community. And so, to me, this is very consistent. The fact that it's a railroad track, we've never had to do that before. But we have gone under roads, we have gone over roads. To me, it's a very good connector. And pretty soon, with down here at the bottom, you're going to see major connectivity right through there, because that's where the trail is going to be rerouted through there.
Right. Currently, this is the connection for the Midland Trail. It goes through an old railroad underpass of I-25. That's a little on the creepy side, and then you have to find your way.
That's a technical term.
That is, yeah. And then you have to sort of wander your way through the industrial area before you get out onto the Midland Trail. With the construction of Cimarron Interchange, there will be a new bridge over Monument Creek to connect to this park again. And And the Midland Trail will come here, go underneath I-25, where Cimarron goes under I-25, and follow Fountain Creek. And over here where I can't go, it will split. The right hand will continue on the Midland Trail. Left hand, you will be able to cross underneath Cimarron and get over to 8th Street,
Which will take you to the Bear Creek Trail.
which takes you to the Bear
Which is
Creek
your
Trail.
I believe. And so that connectivity is a major part of it.
And by the way, Bear Creek Trail will be opening again next week.
Oh, that's good. And one of the things we're trying to do, especially with our bike trail system, is if we have the opportunity to keep the bike trails like this, this one being next to America the Beautiful, is really designed for family use, off of the bridges where cars are, it really has a benefit for us from a safety point of view. Thank you.
No problem. The other thing I wanted to tell you about this bridge is one of the things that we're looking forward to is that by connecting to downtown on weekends when we have festivities in America the Beautiful Park, because we can have 5,000 visitors and up for a big festival there, we will be able to use available weekend parking in downtown, and people will be able to walk over the bridge instead of coming into that traffic jam and the dirt parking lot that currently exists.
And also, Kathleen, and most of you have seen the Blue Dot condominiums that are going up just to the right of this area here at Vermaho, on the right side. That the conceptual designs that I've seen is for multifamily condos.
Yes.
In
Family housing, right?
in that area, which gives an instant connection into the park and trail system,
Yeah.
which is what enlivens the legacy loop.
And not part of this project, but part of another project that I'm working on in the city with bike funds is we will be redoing Vermaho Avenue to include nice bike lanes on Vermaho that ultimately will go all the way to Weber.
And I think it's only fair to show right there that county commissioners, you've got one block and you're in the park system. In case you want to go for a run on the week,
Yeah.
at noon
Yeah.
or something like that. Okay? Yes.
I just wanted to thank you for showing us this, which is, of
I
course...
want to thank
it's-
Craig for finding it as.
Well, there you go. I mean, it's the cover page is Pikes Peak Greenway, and it's the master plan. It's right there. So that ties into the planning that was conceptualized at the time. And then you have the transcript of the meeting you're referring to in our backup.
I do.
That speaks specifically about the bridge and about PPRTA tie-in as you're talking about the ballot. And so it's all right in there, and I just appreciate the tie-in on those.
No problem.
Thanks, Kathleen. Yes, Tyler?
Just one further thought, the more editorial comment that 93 plan is remarkable in that you look at some of those connections, and now, 20-plus years later, we're actually seeing them happen. There's the connection with the I-25 and the Cimarron connection, and it's kind of remarkable when you see the plan come together.
I keep having to tell young traffic engineers that the thing about traffic engineering is it takes a long time, but eventually the pieces begin to fall together.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, any other comments or questions? Yes, Jim?
I'd just like to, again, Jim Godfrey, Chair of the CAC, just point out that we didn't have some of this information
I
in our
understand that.
discussion, so I want to just make that clear.
But I appreciate the dialogue that the CAC had, because it was important for the integrity of PPRTA for those discussions to take place.
And that was the underlying reason, and we
That's
take
right.
that seriously, so
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
And I think it's a learning experience for all the partners in PPRTA, as we need to be crystal clear when we put things on the ballot. Crystal clear. Okay. All right, let's move forward. Let's go to the City of Colorado Springs contracts.
Good afternoon, Mike Chavez, City Engineering. We just have one item for your review today, and that's a contract extension for MV5 to help the city continue managing the RTA projects. So they will continue helping us at a reduced level from historically. In the past, they've been at a much higher level, but we have our staff doing some of the work. We still need a little bit more help.
Okay, and this is comes with a recommendation of the CAC. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved?
Second? All right. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay. Thank you. Let's go to the El Paso County. There's actually two items here that Andre is going to explain to you. Our plan here, just so you know, getting into it, is Commissioner Littleton will make a motion that includes two items in the motion, the transfer, a line item transfer, as well as approval of the contract. So, Andre, if you can go ahead, and then we'll get started on this.
Thank you. Andre Bracken, County Engineer. I'm very pleased to bring forward this request for award of this contract to Wildcat Construction for Mark Shuffle South PPRTA project. This is the last of the county's RTA capital projects for the first round of the capital program, and we're just really excited about it. This is one of the largest projects that we have awarded or recommended award for, and we're going to move forward on. First of all, essentially what we did is we went through a very thorough rescoping of the entire project when those bids came in high the first time around. And we had to work carefully through our procurement process and with the city engineering staff because here we are at the very end of the program. There are pool monies there. We're very concerned about making all the projects work and getting all the projects done. So I'd like to thank city staff, especially Kathleen Krager and Mike Chavez, for many hours and many meetings working with us to pour over the numbers and make sure that we're going to make everything work. And especially I want to thank my staff, Dennis Barron and also Jennifer Irvin. They put in lots of time, and they're really the brains behind this, and I really appreciate them for making this happen. Essentially what we did, we took out a lot of the capacity work. And it was basically some of the 4-lane widening that was down south that was kind of on the threshold, whether it be a need by 2040 or not. A lot of talk went on about this, even dating way back in the planning. But by taking that out, it helped us to make the numbers work. But in taking that out, we kept in all the safety elements. So things like the curve down at the very south end of the project, straightening out some of the other curves, a lot of the stormwater improvements, and especially traffic signals, all that was kept in. Also, what we did, we added in a completely different alignment than we'd originally designed, and that is the Banning Lewis Parkway alignment in segment 2. So that's a big change to the project that we had to basically another engineer separate from Parsons Brinkerhoff that designed the rest of the project stepped forward and provided that design and basically plugged that into the project. So a lot happened in a short amount of time to be able to bring this to award. I mentioned again, this is 75% city right-of-way. There is a lot of property acquisition that's left. The big part of the need for the $1 million transfer from the pool is to cover the remaining property acquisition, much of that in the city. Most of the properties within the county portion have been acquired at this point, and we've got memorandums of agreement on those or possession use agreements. But also part of that $1 million is to ensure we've got some contingency money. On a $20+ million construction project, you will have overruns, underruns, and you need some contingency to deal with that. So with this $1 million transfer, that will ensure the project is whole going forward, and we need that to occur in conjunction with the award. Any questions for me?
Any questions? There's my understanding this also has the city's full support of this transfer.
Kathleen waving her head, yes.
Yes.
And Mike.
Well, as you'll see, we're getting into the remaining funds. It was, if you remember, for several months, it's been $5,700,000. You can expect it to be $4,700,000 after this. So that's a good thing. We're using those dollars.
And I think we can get through this without having to go back to the pool. I mean, that's our mantra here. We're marching ahead with that, and I'm really hoping that the rest of that pool money can be utilized on those critical city projects and the North Mark Shuffle Bridge that is out there and your Woodman Road project.
Is there a motion to approve the line item transfer and the contract?
So moved.
In order, to approve the contract, we should do the transfer too.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second, so I'm going to take it as that anyway. Is there any other questions? Anybody in the audience want to speak to this? And this has the support of the CAC as well. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go to, no clapping, County Commissioners. I mean, you're getting a little too excited up here. Let's go to Manitou.
Long time in coming,
That's no way. We're going to do a happy dance.
You don't want,
You don't let us applaud, we're going to do a happy
the other thing that was related to that, no matter what anybody says, the county and the city does work together.
We sure do.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Greg Springwood, City of Manitou. I'm here to present a maintenance contract for a mill and overlay project. We went out to bid on September 3rd, receiving 3 bids, with Schmidt Construction being the lowest bidder. We have awarded this contract, seeking approval through this board to proceed.
Okay. Is there any comments or questions?
Well,
I was going to say,
we've come a long way, man. We now have an objective, reality-based criterion on which roads to pave. For years, we just would pave the mayor's road and the councilor's road. And I almost pined for those days, but I'm really happy that we have such an objective process that we can pave the roads in most need now.
Mayor, would you like to make a motion?
I would like to move for approval.
Second.
All right.
Well, that's Tyler.
Okay, any other
Questions?
comments or questions? Okay.
Thank you
In
very
the
much.
audience? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, great. Thank you very much.
A new day, we're working with Manitou.
Yeah, now the mayor's getting excited.
It's our old city.
Let's go for information, City of Colorado Springs Transit Services. Craig, thank you, and thanks for your little booklet. Did you get it back, by the way?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Rachel.
Because I didn't know if I could guarantee you'd get it back from up here, but it's
Yeah, plan I worked on 21 years ago, so it's kind of nice. Thanks for characterizing it as a useful plan, Tyler. I appreciate it.
Hey, we're so glad you remembered.
Right. Well, I sat through the CAC meeting last week, and it sort of dawned on me that we have a master plan that would help in the conversation. So, dug it up the next day. Update on transit. You have the report in front of you in terms of ridership. Ridership remains strong in all categories. Fixed route is up about 3.5% or 3.25%. ADA went down a little bit, but we had one less weekday this year compared to 2014, and that can make a difference. And our vanpool ridership remains strong. Just a couple other things to note. There was a media release, I think it went out yesterday, that we've have up and running 3 new ticket vending machines. So those are ticket vending machines where customers can buy bus tickets at the machine using cash, credit card, debit card. We've had 2 existing machines. One's at the County Citizen Services Center, and the other's the downtown station. And the new ones are at the Citadel, Pikes Peak Community College South, and Voyager. So all of our transfer stations now have ticket vending machines. Provide 2 benefits. Really, it's a convenience to the customer, but it also speeds up the boarding process, which has ramifications for the performance and reliability of the system. So keeps the bus moving. Buses are best when they're carrying people and moving, both. So it's terrific. Also associated with it, we're also have installed real-time bus information TV screens. They're not quite real-time. Well, they are real-time now. The rest of real-time is going to become active in January. We've had them at the downtown terminal, both in the lobby but also in the bus area, queuing area. We've added those to the Citadel, Pikes Peak Community College, and Voyager as well. So you have real-time information in terms of when buses are going to arrive. As I mentioned before, we're usually on time during good weather. In bad weather, it's most useful. So we're excited about those things as well. And finally, further excitement is our new buses have started to arrive. We've got our first one this past week. We ordered 14 total new buses. We're getting 6 this week and next, and then the other 8 in February, which is absolutely terrific. We actually had our bus out in the parking lot today and invited the drivers. We have contracted drivers. We invited all the drivers to come over to take a look at the new buses. We were excited. We gave out cookies as well and put balloons on and celebrate a birthday. And we actually have to inspect buses as they come off the assembly line in California. And our staff there was naming them with girls' names as they were coming off the line. and celebrating their birthdays. So Molly is in our parking lot currently. We're expecting the other children to arrive soon. It's really exciting. And, of these buses, 14 buses, 9 are replacing existing buses. And we're using PPRTA 2 funding, which was part of the capital list, for local share replacing those buses. And 5 buses are expanding our fleet. We're using PPRTA, the transit allocation, for the local match on that. So PPRTA is key supporting our transit system. So thank you.
Any questions? Yes. Let's go to the mayor, then we'll go to Dennis. Or Dennis, you go first.
I was just wondering, what do you do with the buses that you're taking out of service?
They will be sold in an auction, and we go through a process. The city utilities actually has an auction. We go through that process.
Is Raymond wanting a bus?
No.
Yeah.
They go both ways.
Struggling worse than we were, to confuse the
Compete.
Right.
Yeah. Good. Thanks, Mayor. Mayor?
So you've had a capital replacement, long-term capital replacement program instituted. And
Yes.
this is all in keeping with that as far as the timing of replacing the buses?
Yes. Two comments on that. When we cut back the budget in 2009, 2010, we reduced our system by a third, and we sold buses. And the buses we sold then were old buses. We've had a really new fleet. When I started 6 years ago, our average age of our bus fleet was 3.5 years old. They're currently 9.5 years old on average, because we haven't bought a fixed route bus since then, since 2008. But we do have a system. The FTA expects you to get at least 12 years or 500,000 miles out of a bus. We expect to get that as well. We're working on actually extending that by having mid-year bus rehabs and that kind of thing. So.
And if I may, how many of those buses could be used for the free shuttle in Manitou, the new ones you're buying?
With the new ones we're getting out of the 14, 5 or 30-foot buses, which is, right now we have about half our buses are 35 feet, half are 40 feet. Rule of thumb, they have about the number of seats they have is the number of feet of the bus minus a few. So a 35-foot bus has 31 seats. We're getting some 30-foot buses, and we think that those would be appropriate for the downtown shuttle. So they will be replacing the brown buses you've been seeing there.
Right. So those held about 24 people?
Yeah, I think so, and some standing room. But the problem with those, of course, they just had the one door. And so you have standing room, you have people trying to get out while people are trying to get on. It's slow. We're going to have a 2-door, low floor, wheelchairs would roll on, and people can come and go easily. We try to train people to get on the front and get off the back.
And one final question. I wasn't able to attend the 2016 shuttle meeting last week, but
Yes.
apparently somebody was talking about making modifications to the Route 3.
Yes.
Is that something you're seriously contemplating, ending the Route 3 like the east end of Manitou, and then
Yes.
people have to get home on the free shuttle, which is only seasonal?
Well, what we're looking at, the problem we're trying to solve is that our Route 3 bus, which goes from downtown terminal, Colorado Avenue, Manitou Avenue, turns around at the second roundabout and comes back, is it's been caught up in the downtown Manitou traffic. Success is a double-edged sword,
Sure is.
right? So you have a lot of congestion in the downtown terminal, and that bus has been, I think at times, 70% on time, which is unacceptable. So we need to solve that problem. One way to do that would be to, during the summer months at least, end it at the Manitou boundary and then use the downtown shuttle as the service of Manitou. And it would come often enough, and the timing would be such where it'll work timing-wise. You can get off one bus and get on the other one. We would not leave you high and dry. So that was at first proposed. But when we said we could also go year-round, if Manitou's interested in a year-round summer shuttle, we could have it stop at that boundary year-long. But I think with that meeting, the purpose of that meeting was to float some ideas, present the problem, float some ideas, see what Manitou has to say, and see if we can make something work.
When you do a route adjustment or change like that, you usually have public hearings? And,
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I thought so. So it would be an opportunity for the Manitou Springs community to weigh in on any proposed changes?
Yes. Our service change, it would occur in May. So we do have time. It's actually in our budget.
It's not that far away.
It's not, but it's in our budget for transit for 2016 to make changes to Route 3. So we have some funding from our side, and Manitou would pay its fair share, whatever that's termed to be. But we can talk. But we're going to have to do something to Route.
Manitou would pay its fair share of what?
in whatever that may be.
Now you have his attention.
Manitou's already paying for the summer shuttle, correct?
Yeah, we're paying a la carte now. We're paying retail prices on that because there's no more CMAQ money, and the overage for last year is gone, so yeah.
Correct. So the ideas that we presented, we can talk more probably offline and come back to this board at a future time when we have a little bit more information. But the issue is we have a route that doesn't stay on time, and we have to do something.
It's still the second most profitable route in your system, though, right? Or robust, I don't know what.
In terms of total ridership, third or fourth, fifth maybe.
Really?
Yeah. Platte Galley's number 1, Academy's number 2. I believe Nevada South is number 3.
Okay,
We will talk further. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Any chance that the bus that goes to Manitou could be named Mark?
Yeah. And what happened with the guy names?
Yeah,
I know. Well,
Winter.
okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to, next item is the El Paso County change order and property acquisition report. This is informational also. Jennifer,
Unless you have any questions.
anybody have any questions regarding this? It's in your packet? Okay, I think we're all set. Thank
Great.
you. Let's go to the monthly status report for the remaining A-list capital projects.
Good afternoon, Rick Sonnenberg, Pikes Peak RTA Program and Contracts Manager. The chair already made my report. Your action on 8B took $1 million out of the 5.790. So next month we will have the memo again, but it'll be 4.790 and change.
Okay, any questions or
Just
comments?
information.
Anybody in the audience? Okay. Rick, let's go to the next item, which is the administrative actions related to the FAA.
For several decades, the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, has required that sales taxes on aviation fuel by federally assisted airports be used to benefit those airports. Last year, the federal regs were revised to apply this same requirement to non-sponsor governments, such as Pikes Peak RTA. So we received a notice from the Department of Local Affairs through the state regarding these regs. And the regs require governments such as ourselves to develop a plan to not only identify the revenue that we get from aviation sales taxes, but how we plan to benefit the airports where the sales taxes are being sold. So we went about, and Beverly contacted the Department of Revenue, and she was given figures that's in your packet for the first 8 months of 2015, and we annualized that out for an estimate for 2015 of $183,500. Then we went about defining the airports that we would be benefiting, and the three that are in the county, Colorado Springs, of course, Meadow Lake, which is Falcon, and Calhan. Now, Calhan obviously is not a member government, but it could be benefiting from the sales taxes that are sold for those airplanes, but sold outside of Calhan, that then benefit that airport. So we had to include that, even though you obviously know that Calhan is not a member government. So the Department of Revenue does not have a way to divide our revenue, our sales tax revenue on aviation fuel between the three airports. So we just took it as a lump sum and started to look for some obvious benefits that the PPRTA has done for one or more of the airports. And the biggest one is South Metro Prairie Parkway, that the PPRTA spent $53 million and change benefiting that road that leads directly to the Colorado Springs Airport. Now, then we asked other staff in this building to run a traffic demand model to see what the estimate of the passengers and employees going to and from the airport, what percentage of all traffic was on South Proby that ended up going to and from the Colorado Springs Airport, and we came up, the staff in the building came up with a figure of 23.8% of all traffic on Proby goes to and from the airport. So then we did the math and took the 23.8% of the total 53 million for Proby and got a figure, and then divided that by a typical number of years that a road and bridge lasts, which is 60, and came up with an annual benefit to Colorado Springs Airport of Proby Parkway to be $210,915, which is just enough to match the estimated annual revenue of $183.5. So the staff's recommendation to the board is that you authorize the staff to submit a plan to the FAA indicating that the annual benefit to the Colorado Springs Airport of $210,900, which is the annual benefit of having Proby Parkway, be applied against $183.5, which is the revenue that the PPRTA receives from the aviation fuel sales tax, so that that would be the plan, that the benefit more than covers the revenue.
Is there any questions? Yes, Mayor?
When does a taxable sale occur with fuel? Is it occurring within our exclusion zone at the airport?
No, that's the question.
It does not apply in the CAS, but
there's a lot of fuel sold out.
Aviation fuel? Aviation?
Aviation fuel?
See, that's what I'm wondering. I don't understand the world of aviation. I mean, obviously you fill up your car,
It's only the business.
you pay your credit card at the pump, and that's where the taxable transaction occurs. Is that not the case with airplanes?
Well, they go run in trucks, so
Fuel is.
depending on where the fuel is.
They could buy it bulk and in the truck, take it to the plane.
Okay. But, so we know that the fuel sales are not occurring in the CAS.
well, the fuel sales had been higher before the CAS. They've dropped significantly.
Yeah, the tax has gone away in the past, but we still have $15,000 in
Okay.
other aviation fuel.
Okay.
Is there a motion to approve this draft plan?
So moved.
Second.
Second? Okay. Any other discussion? Anyone in the audience? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay. Let's go to the next item, board appointments.
It's great that it matches.
Fascinating.
And it's you again, Rick?
Yes, it is. We have 3 or 4 items to bring to your attention here, most of which can be reviewed by the recommendations on the back side of the sheet. As you know, the board of directors are appointed for 1-year terms by each of your respective member governments. So just a reminder that if you would like to be reappointed, it's time to pursue that with your respective governing body. And notify Rob or let us know at either the December or the January board meeting.
Okay.
Number 2, the board bylaws call for the the chair and the vice chair to flip each year. And for 2016, it would be a county director to be the chair, and also in 2016, a city director would be the vice chair. So we encourage you to start that discussion.
So you'll be rid of me after a month. That's chair anyway. Okay.
Exactly. Here's the have to move.
So
And-
moved. No pun intended. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And lastly, there's on the CAC, there's an at-large regular member, David Chestnut, who's term limited as of December 31 of this year. And all 4 alternates have asked for his at-large regular to be promoted up to that at-large regular seat. And also David Chestnut, who's term limited as regulars, has to come back as an alternate if one of the alternates is promoted. According to the board policy, you have an ad hoc subcommittee of the board chair, the board vice chair, and the CAC chair to meet and discuss all the at-large CAC vacancies and how to fill them, and I think that subcommittee has a recommendation for you.
Yes. Jim, do you want to bring forward that recommendation? And while Jim's coming forward, I will tell you this is a unanimous recommendation from the chair, the vice chair, and the chair of the CAC.
Jim Godfrey, Chair of the CAC. The ad hoc committee met and discussed to approve David Chestnut moving from an at-large regular to an at-large alternate. And our recommendation to the board is that Mr. Tom Versba be approved, nominated for approval from the at-large alternate to the at-large regular position being vacated by Mr. Chestnut.
Okay. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved?
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Thanks. Great work, Jim. Okay. Is there any PPRTA member announcements? Mayor?
Just real quick, getting everybody ready for next month's meeting, but Manitou is moving forward with our RTA Capital 2 list. Surface parking, we have a contract to purchase the Tajin Alami property. And so we'll be asking to get about $300,000 plus some change in order to make the down payment on that property. There's actually $668,000 earmarked for this project. We're only going to be asking for that down payment and some of the closing cost money, saving the rest as we design a first-class parking facility there on the property. So just a little heads up for everybody. That'll be coming hopefully to the CAC and then the board next month.
Does that mean Tahina Alami's closed? Dang it.
Well, it's staying open through New Year's, and then we already have some real interest in opening a first-class steakhouse, restaurant, and event center on that property.
Good.
We're just interested in the parking
Yeah.
from the city stand, although we'll take the tax revenue. But anyway, just a heads up on that. Thank you.
Any other comments or announcements? Okay, with that, we are adjourned.
You go to executive session?
Oh, God, I wasn't at that meeting.
That's what happens.
Yeah, I saw that.
And